The year is 2008. A man walks onto one of the most famous late-night stages in America. He sits down across from David Letterman. He is wearing dark sunglasses. His beard is enormous and unkempt. He mumbles. He stares at the floor. He seems completely disconnected from reality. The audience laughs nervously. David Letterman looks at him like he is watching a man have a public breakdown in real time. And here is the thing that nobody in that studio understood. This was not a breakdown. This was not a cry for help. This was one of the most committed, dangerous, and misunderstood artistic experiments in the history of Hollywood. His name is Joaquin Phoenix. And what happened next confused, angered, and ultimately stunned every single person who thought they knew who he was. But to understand why he did it, you have to go back to the very beginning, because the story of Joaquin Phoenix does not start in Hollywood. It starts on the road, with a family that lived outside every rule society ever wrote. Let us set the scene before the flashback. By the mid-2000s, Joaquin Phoenix had already done things most actors only dream about. He had been nominated for an Academy Award for Gladiator. He had delivered one of the most celebrated musical performances in film history, as Johnny Cash in Walk the Line. He had another Oscar nomination. He was considered one of the finest actors of his generation. And then he disappeared. Not quietly, not gracefully. He announced he was retiring from acting to become a rapper. Hollywood did not know whether to laugh or panic. His publicist had no comment. His colleagues were confused. The press savaged him daily. Tabloids ran headlines, suggesting he had lost his mind completely. And this is where everything almost collapsed. Because the real question nobody was asking was this. Was Joaquin Phoenix actually falling apart, or was he doing something nobody in Hollywood had ever been bold enough to attempt? San Juan, Puerto Rico. October 28, 1974, Joaquin Raphael Bottom is born, the third of 5 children. His parents, John and Arlen, are traveling missionaries for a religious sect called the Children of God. The family moves constantly. South America, Mexico, the United States. There are no permanent addresses, no stable schools, no normal childhood by any conventional definition. But here is what nobody talks about. That childhood, rootless, unconventional, sometimes frightening, gave Joaquin Phoenix something most actors spend their entire careers trying to manufacture. He had absolutely no fear of being an outsider. Because he had never been an insider. His parents eventually left the Children of God and moved to Los Angeles. To make money, John Bottom let his children perform on the streets of Hollywood. Not out of exploitation, out of necessity, and out of a genuine belief that his children had something special. They did. The family changed their last name to Phoenix, a symbol of rebirth, of rising from the ashes. It would turn out to be the most accurate name anyone in Hollywood ever chose. His older brother River Phoenix began acting first, and he was extraordinary. By the late 1980s, River was one of the most celebrated young actors in America. Joaquin followed him into the industry. But here is what nobody expected. River Phoenix died on October 31, 1993. He collapsed outside the Viper Room nightclub in Los Angeles from a drug overdose. He was 23 years old. Joaquin was there. He called 911. The recording of that call was played on national television without his permission. He was 19 years old, and the grief that followed would shape everything he would ever do in front of a camera. After River died, Joaquin Phoenix went silent. Not for a week, not for a month. For nearly 2 years, he disappeared from Hollywood entirely. The industry moved on. Other young actors took the roles. The machine did not wait. When he came back, something was different. He was darker, more internal, less interested in being liked. He took strange roles, intense roles, roles that made producers uncomfortable. He had a reputation for being difficult, not in a diva way, but in a way that suggested he cared too much, pushed too hard, refused to do anything halfway. Some directors loved it, others avoided him entirely. His early work was uneven. Inventing the Abbotts, Parenthood, small parts in films that went nowhere. But the real problem was something else entirely. Joaquin Phoenix carried the shadow of his brother everywhere he went. Every profile mentioned River. Every interview circled back to that night outside the Viper Room. He could not escape it. And for a young actor trying to build an identity in one of the most superficial industries on earth, that weight was almost unbearable. But what happened next shocked Hollywood. Instead of breaking, he used it. The year is 2000. Director Ridley Scott is making an epic Roman gladiatorial film called Gladiator. Russell Crowe is the lead, the villain. The sniveling, dangerous, psychologically complex Emperor Commodus needs to be someone extraordinary, someone who can make an audience hate him and fear him, and somehow feel sorry for him all at the same time. Joaquin Phoenix gets the role, and what he does with it is unforgettable. He does not play Commodus as a simple villain. He plays him as a wounded child inside a tyrant's body. Every scene crackles with insecurity and menace simultaneously. He is terrifying precisely because he is so human. The film wins Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Joaquin Phoenix receives his first Oscar nomination. Hollywood finally understood what they had on their hands. But here is the thing about Joaquin Phoenix that separates him from every other actor of his generation. He was not interested in the fame that followed. He was not interested in the franchise offers, the blockbuster sequels, the safe commercial choices that Gladiator could have opened the door to. He wanted Walk the Line. Director James Mangold is making a biographical film about Johnny Cash. The role requires an actor who can not just act like Johnny Cash, but actually sing like him, actually perform like him, actually become him. Joaquin Phoenix spent an entire year learning to play guitar, learning to sing in Cash's register, studying his movements, his mannerisms, his pain. He refused to lip-sync a single note. Every performance in that film is real. Every song is actually Joaquin Phoenix singing live. The result is one of the most complete transformations in modern cinema. Walk the Line is a massive critical and commercial success. Reese Witherspoon wins the Oscar for Best Actress. Joaquin Phoenix receives his second Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. He loses. And then he does something that stuns everyone. He announces he is done. He says he is retiring from acting to pursue a rap career. He begins appearing in public looking unrecognizable, unkempt, disconnected. The Letterman appearance happens. The internet explodes with mockery. But here is what nobody knew. It was all a movie. The entire retirement, the rap career, the Letterman interview, the public unraveling. All of it was performance art. Joaquin Phoenix and his brother-in-law Casey Affleck had been filming a documentary, or rather a mockumentary, called I'm Still Here. It was an exploration of celebrity, identity, and the media's obsession with destruction. When the truth came out, reactions were divided. Some called it brilliant, a fearless deconstruction of fame and public persona. Others called it self-indulgent and irresponsible. But one thing was undeniable. Joaquin Phoenix had just spent 2 years living inside a character 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in full public view. And almost nobody had figured it out. The level of commitment was staggering, and it pointed towards something even greater that was coming. Director Todd Phillips approaches Joaquin Phoenix with a concept that makes studio executives deeply nervous. A standalone origin story for the Joker, not connected to any existing DC universe. Dark, psychological, uncomfortable, inspired more by Taxi Driver and the king of comedy than any superhero film ever made. Joaquin Phoenix loses 52 pounds for the role. He develops a laugh, a real physical, painful laugh that he and Todd Phillips discover comes from a genuine condition where laughter becomes an involuntary response to distress. He dances alone in a bathroom in a moment of quiet madness that becomes one of the most iconic scenes in modern cinema. He becomes Arthur Fleck. Completely, totally, without reservation. Joker premieres at the Venice Film Festival. It wins the Golden Lion, the festival's highest prize. It makes over $1 billion at the worldwide box office, on a budget of $60 million. And at the Academy Awards ceremony in February 2020, after 2 previous nominations, after decades of fearless and uncompromising work, Joaquin Phoenix wins the Oscar for Best Actor. In his acceptance speech, he does not thank Hollywood. He talks about animal rights, about human exploitation, about the arrogance of believing one species can dominate another. It is vintage Joaquin Phoenix, completely himself, even at the moment of his greatest triumph. After Joker, every door in Hollywood opened simultaneously. He could make anything, play anyone, name his price. And what did he choose? Beau is Afraid, a deeply strange, surrealist, 3-hour psychological odyssey directed by Ari Aster. A film that divided audiences and critics violently. A film that made almost no commercial sense whatsoever. He chose it anyway. Because that is who Joaquin Phoenix is. He has 4 Academy Award nominations, 1 win, a career that spans 4 decades, a body of work that includes Her, The Master, 2 Lovers, You Were Never Really Here. Films that exist in their own universe, following no commercial logic except the logic of artistic truth. He lives quietly. He avoids social media entirely. He does not do press tours in any conventional way. He has a son with actress Rooney Mara, whom he named River, after the brother he lost on that October night in 1993. Some wounds never close. They just become something else. Here is the truth about Joaquin Phoenix that Hollywood has never fully accepted. He was never performing for Hollywood. He was never performing for awards, for approval, for the machine that chews actors up and spits them out when they stop being useful. He was performing because something inside him, something forged in a childhood without walls, deepened by grief too large for any 19-year-old to carry, sharpened by decades of refusing the easy path, demanded it. Every strange choice made sense. Every uncomfortable role was intentional. Every disappearance was preparation. The man who scared Hollywood was never trying to frighten anyone. He was just the only person in the room, willing to tell the complete truth, and in an industry built almost entirely on beautiful lies. That will always be the most radical thing anyone can do.